All right, I'm going to go ahead and go live so I can send my tweet and not have to worry about it.
All right.
Nobody else, everybody left, so I should be okay.
Just know you are on the internet. Anything you say at this point, well, it's there.
Bob is a feeder.
We're going to have like
Already
4
knew that.
people that see it. It's going to be great.
Dude, poor freaking Bob having to carry me last night at like 2 o'clock in the morning.
Dude, I was not carrying shit, dude. I think I played one time. I played DPS with you guys, and I didn't even have a medal. And I know medals don't matter, but I didn't even have one.
They matter if you're gonna flame at somebody. That's about it, I guess.
Yeah. All right.
Nah, dude, the minute I could bring Jesus in there, I was like, yeah, dude, I'm bringing Daniel to carry me for this entire round.
All right, Bob. Just let me know whenever you're set, and we'll get started.
Yeah, I am live. We are on.
All right, sounds good.
We can start whenever.
All right, let's go ahead and jump into things. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of, really, we don't even have a name for this. This is our Overwatch League Podcasters Roundtable, and we have a number of different podcasters with us tonight. So we have 5 different podcasts being represented on this roundtable, including the Broverwatch, Overtakes, Overwatch League Recap, Overwatch League Network, and OWL by the numbers. So before we get into the roundtable in itself, let's quickly just go around introducing the work that we're currently doing, and then we will talk all things Stage 1 wrap-up and preview Overwatch League Stage number 2. So let me direct this over to the Broverwatch. We have Adam and Calder both with us here tonight. Gentlemen, how are you doing tonight?
You go first.
Okay, I'm good. How are you? I'm Calder. I'm the more handsome part of the Broverwatch.
Hi,
Hi,
Calder.
hi, I'm Adam.
Hi,
I'm
Calder.
the brains and brawn and
I wouldn't say brawn.
Beauty, but
Wouldn't say brawn.
I'm the brains and brawn of the project over at thebroverwatch.com. So thanks for having us.
Always good to have you guys. And, we have not just one, but 2 different YouTube creators, because we also have Overtakes. We have Kel and Misfit. Guys, how are you doing tonight?
Doing great. How you guys doing?
Doing awesome.
Enjoying the lovely Cleveland weather, where it's been 60 degrees, 30 degrees, rain, snowed, and sleeted today.
In the last 10 hours. So.
Here we are. Yeah.
Yes.
That sounds fun.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic.
It's
opening day in baseball's coming up, so
yeah, right.
it's got to be absolute dreadful weather.
I mean, it's just like living in Cleveland, so that makes sense.
Yeah, pretty much. Hey, football's gonna be better here. I'm not even a fan, and I'm saying that. I was like jumping in for Kel ahead of time.
I mean, I don't even know what to say anymore. I just want it to start. But yeah, this is gonna be awesome. Let's do it.
All right, we also have our dynamic duo from Overwatch League Recap. We have Blaze and Bob and Melorina.
Hey. I'll recap in the house.
Whoop whoop. I'm here.
Yes, here.
Yeah.
We're all here together.
We're raising the roof together.
All right, and of course, I can't forget one of my co-hosts on OWL by the numbers. We have Julian Goulian, a.k.a. Ramses. Ramses, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right. It's another great day being part of the hive mind that is our shared fantasy Overwatch team. Doing well.
Oh, we're not getting into that yet, are we?
I feel like that's off limits.
At any rate, happy to be here. Stoked to hang out and talk some Stage 1.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You mentioning fantasy just kind of depressed me because
Yeah.
I realized
Yeah, I
we
know.
have Defran.
Oh shoot! I didn't even think about that.
Oh, I thought it was because we were the only team that was our only win, was we beat you guys. So.
You know what? You're correct.
Correct.
You can't
I
even argue with that.
Defran in 2 leagues, and it's gonna hurt.
Oh shoot! I have him in 3. I just realized that. Man, I'm gonna have to
Feels bad.
do a
man.
lot of work.
Absolutely. So, with Stage 1 officially in the books, it's time to take a look back and reflect on how everything has panned out. So, did the stage play out how everyone expected to, or were, there are a couple of teams out there that threw a wrench into our plan? So, to kick things off tonight, let's go ahead and share some of the biggest surprises that we saw in Overwatch League 2019 stage number 1. So I have to say, like, for me, probably the biggest storyline to follow was kind of like the parity between the two LA teams. So we have the LA Valiant, who went from being one of the top teams from Stage 4 of the inaugural season to finish in Stage 1 with an 0-7 record, with only 10 map wins to their name. So the Valiant, they were marred with issues throughout the stage, whether it was poor Zarya bubble management, to misuse transcendences from Izayaki, to just passiveness run their main tank, also, which kind of coincides with the Zarya issues with Kariv. And
I think we could probably just blame it all on Custa's big brain.
That's clearly what it is. He's
His
just too
brain's
smart.
way too big.
Too smart.
Yeah, it was just taking up way too much space. It wasn't very good.
We were literally sitting there with all of the press opening week, sitting there in this huge room, and everybody's like, "What's Kuki doing out here? Where's Custa?" And then, Frito from your Overwatch was like, "Custa's got to be sick, right?" We're like, "Yeah, it's got to be that, right?" But yeah, definitely surprising for me as well.
Yeah, and it's crazy, too, because I feel like a lot of us definitely had Valiant pegged as either, like, a mid-table team or someone that's going to be, like, in the top 8. And then on the other side, we also had the LA Gladiators, who a lot of people had, penciled in as a potential top 5 team. They had some pretty big acquisitions during the offseason. You had Decay, who turned 18 early on in the season, who had an incredible debut, but quickly found himself kind of in that inconsistency range and then picking up some momentum later on in the stage. And the Gladiators were one of those teams who, just missed the playoff cut. They finished with a 3-4 record with a positive map differential. So it seems like the Gladiators, out of the teams that didn't make the playoffs, were probably the best team that didn't quite make the cut, because they did pick up some pretty impressive wins. But looking across
except
board,
for Houston.
Yeah,
it was
that
all
was the thing.
after. Yeah, it was all after Decay came in too,
Yeah.
and he was a little rocky to start, but he definitely got it going.
Well, he came out with a bang, and then he kind of plateaued for a little bit. But I think it just took them a while. I think we saw them towards the end really figure it out, right? And I think having Decay come in later, it's kind of like the same thing we saw in San Francisco Shock last year, where Shock had a lot of players that came in later, then they redid their roster, and then everything kind of changed. They were up and down, and I think that's what we were seeing with LA. Gladiators, not Valiant. I don't know what about them, but I think Gladiators will be better.
I think one of the biggest things that made a difference for the Gladiators as well is hydration really picked up his game in the last couple of games, because, he was one of those guys where he was always the first to die. And when he died, the whole rest of the team was just screwed.
Well, and he's always kind of been hit and miss. Like, there were definite times in Season 1 that hydration was a major carry. And then sometimes he just doesn't show up, like the World Cup last year.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I really.
At least he showed up. Like Fisher didn't show up, At least he
He physically showed up, but yeah. As an Atlanta fan, I was kind of bummed that Gladiators decided to finally get it together for the Atlanta game and couldn't wait one more game to get it together. But
Yeah.
I'm glad they did get it together, because they've obviously, I think in stage 2 we'll see them higher than they were this stage, because they just had a rough start, like you said, because of Decay not being there. But yeah, he kind of lifted up their skill ceiling quite a bit.
in the Ghost meta, but I also feel like Surefour not being in the lineup was hurting them at the beginning, because I think Surefour is, a big brain that they can handle. Not like the Valiant with Custa's big brain, but I think the Gladiators can handle Surefour's big brain. But I think him being out of the lineup and Decay being in, I think hurt them in that interim time, because that communication wasn't there that Surefour was able to provide.
I mean, I thought it was a little bit different, just because to me, the person who seemed to really determine what Gladiators did was Roar the whole time. Because there were times when Roar was on point and Roar was locked in, they looked really, really good. And there were times when Roar would jump in by himself and get killed immediately. I mean, I wonder if we can put that on him having better communication with Decay and that whole squad, as opposed with having Surefour being one of the main callers in there. I don't know. It just seemed like he definitely, once Decay got in, his level of play also really stepped up, which seemed to kind of tie the whole thing together.
Yeah, and you have to remember, too, Bishu didn't play at all in Stage 1, who usually is their translator. So I feel like that was probably the bigger issue, or underlying issue, that the Gladiators just didn't have at their disposal.
Yeah, kind of a communication issue of like, yes, Roar makes it look like he just charges in and, dies, but maybe in his head he told people like, hey, let's go for it, let's go in, and then everybody else just was like, no, I don't know what he said.
I mean, Bumper does that, and it works for the Titans, so I don't know.
Well, not everyone
dives in and dies.
And it works for me, too, on the ladder.
Tactical feeding is different than just rolling in.
Yeah, that's true.
I feel like Bumper's
plays
smile,
exactly
though,
as
when
I
he's
play.
doing it, like when he's doing it and his little smile on his face, like when you look at his face cam, it's just like, yes, he's like, he knows exactly what he's doing.
Right.
Yeah.
So were there any other teams that maybe caught you guys by surprise in Stage 1?
I thought Oh, go ahead, Bob.
No, you go.
I think the Guangzhou kind of got me by surprise. I thought they were going to be decent, but I think they played a lot better with the GOATS meta kind of thing going on than I think everybody thought. We all kind of thought they were going to be mid-table. I think they're kind of poised to be maybe in that top 8, kind of 6-8 area once we get into the next meta. I thought they performed a lot better than I was expecting, and they were a lot more fun to watch than I was expecting. Too. Like, I thought Hotba was like incredible for them, just doing whatever he was doing, like playing Diva or Pharah sometimes, or running Tracer or Sombra. I thought he kind of like found his home. I guess I think he was okay in Philadelphia, but I think there he kind of like is like their jack of all trades kind of guy, and I think he's proving to be someone that's valuable for them. And the rest of their team, like Happy, was incredible when he got to play Widow and stuff like that. I love seeing that. I can't wait for the next stage, but that's beside the point. But they really surprised me. I kind of thought they were going to be like 15, 16, and like in everybody's power rankings, but I think they kind of proved themselves as one of the better teams that I wasn't expecting.
Speaking of fun to watch, like, can we talk about the Chengdu Hunters?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
My God, guys, like, I don't even care if they won, which they did win occasionally, right? But their play, like, their games were so much fun to watch, and watching them take on Vancouver, and Vancouver, like, just scrambling and like bringing out Wrecking Ball and Hanzo and Doomfist, like, it was just like, what is happening right now? I love that team. I love them.
Calder and I are on an open division team together, and we're playing a Grandmaster team tomorrow, and we're playing out some Chengdu strats because that's our only chance. They were probably
Very
the
well
most.
Could work.
We average
hopefully.
about a gold SR, and they match us against Grandmasters, so it's going to be a hard one to win.
It's close.
Yeah. But yeah, Chengdu was probably
I think
the most fun to watch of all the teams. Like, even when they didn't play ball, like, their DPS were also crazy impressive. So
Yeah, Jinmu was ridiculous.
Absurd.
I can't wait to see that dude play, not just be in Brigida jail.
Which can be said
I mean,
about
he
a lot
wasn't.
of DPS.
He escaped from jail many times.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair to say that every analyst, everyone I listened to, except for maybe Volamel, was, not high on any of the expansion teams. And we thought that Vancouver would be up there, but we did not think they would be 7-0.
Right.
And just every expansion team was a pretty big surprise to me across the board.
Probably the only exception being Washington. I think everyone pretty much called that they were going to be the worst team in the league, or close to
they
it.
weren't.
Hey,
Right.
not anymore.
Yeah, close.
Florida.
Right.
Not anymore. Mayhem.
Way to take one
Yeah.
for the team there.
I do every week.
Somebody had to.
Right. I mean, eventually they were going to get a win, so, you always have that sacrificial goat. But, it's important to note, like, we all have our respective teams, right? And hopefully, if we do see a meta shift, some of these teams are going to be seen in a different tune, but taking a look back, we're going to do something a little bit off-kilter here, and let's describe our team performances via song lyrics and how they did in stage number 1. So, you could go with, something maybe a little too on the nose, something maybe not so obvious. So who wants to start us off? So let's go ahead and say, the song title, the band, and then we'll try to guess what team you're talking about. Or chat can, probably the better thing to do. Since I think for the most part, like we have a good idea of whose everyone team is, just because we're all pretty connected with fantasy and otherwise. So
I'll go first. All right. So I'm not gonna sing my songs. I mean, some of you guys might know me. I'm a big metalhead. The first song that comes to mind with my team was "Force Fed Broken Glass" by Cannibal Corpse. But I didn't go there. I went outshined. So I can't get any lower, but still I feel I'm sinking. That's the lyric that reminds me of my team every day. So, and I'm old too, so those are my reference points.
Okay.
So, I guess like mine doesn't make a lot of sense unless I preface it though.
Well, then it was a poor choice. If you have to explain the joke, so then it's not funny anymore.
I'll do this. This is a new coach in the league, and it's what he's told his team during stage 1. Okay. And I just saw Dumbo today, so I'm in the Disney mood. So,
are you saying that your team needs a feather so they can soar to new heights?
I don't think I need to introduce this song. I'm pretty sure, but I can show you the world, take you wonder by wonder, over, sideways, and under. We almost made playoffs in stage 1.
Almost.
Really close. Really close.
So close.
Hey, at least he sang it. I'll give him that.
Who else has the ball?
All right, Ramses and I can go. Ramses and I can go. Are you ready, Ramses?
I'm ready. We're gonna see how this goes.
Yeah, let's see how much duet works on Discord.
Yeah,
okay, listen. So Ramses and I have the same team. Here we go. Not regrettably. Get out of here.
We're gonna apologize for any delay that happens across because of this. So we'll see.
We're 100% not apologizing for anything.
Never mind. No apologize.
All right. You have the tune?
I do. You're gonna have to lead this one pretty hard though.
Oh gosh. All right. I haven't had enough wine. Oh gosh. All right. Ready? 1, 2, 3. I think I did it again. I made you believe we're more than we've been. Oh baby, it might seem like we've changed, but it doesn't mean that we're gonna win. 'Cause to lose all my 5s, that is just so typical Houston. Oh baby, oops, I did it again. You played with my heart, got lost in the game. Oh baby, oops, I think we improved with Dante's from above. It's not that difficult.
Wow.
We win. We win.
Good job.
A for effort. That was commitment there.
And just like our team, we had such great intentions, but it just didn't happen.
Yeah. Maybe they just have a little bit of delay before they really start to kick it into high gear. Who knows?
That's the most
if we got Jake in the schoolgirl outfit, it would have been a lot more convincing.
Mm-hmm.
If what?
If we got Jake in the schoolgirl outfit for the song.
Dude, no,
Him
man,
and
you are
Baby
missing the mark. Leekser's fiance. What are you talking about? We already have the actress for this role.
Yeah, you gotta put Steffi to work somehow.
Get out of here.
Oh, man. All right, well, I picked the song for the Dynasty and the Titans. I'll go through my Dynasty one, because I feel like this one's pretty on the nose, because, I never know what to expect from from my team. So this is Blood Hands by the Royal Blood. So it's
Lots of blood.
It's getting hard to listen when the clock is ticking, counting down the days gone by. Praying for an answer to another question that will only leave you dry. So, the Dynasty, it seems like every time, you know, I feel like I have certain expectations, and then they do something, and I'm just left with more questions every time. And it seems like every time they're bringing out a new team, whether it's the A team, B team, and I don't know, it's been the solar coaster, like, the entire stage, and yeah, we finally, you know, made the stage playoffs, ran a Korean gauntlet, all that good stuff. So who knows?
They look better, so that's good.
I like it.
Are you going to play the Imperial March for the...
No. I did not do the Imperial March for Vancouver.
How do you sing that?
You only hum it.
Dum 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 dum.
Anybody else have one?
I have one. Now, I have like, as some people know, I have like 4 favorite teams. So good luck guessing.
You're like Andreas from Optic Lab. Like, oh, dude, I like this team and I like this team. I
have different reasons for each team, but this is my current number 1 team. So I chose Yesterday by the Beatles.
I want to sing it with you.
The snippet I took from that is, yesterday, all my troubles seem so far away. Now it looks like they are here to stay. Oh, I believe in yesterday. What team is that?
Suddenly, I'm not half the man I used to be. Sorry. You can't start songs.
What is Atlanta?
It is Atlanta. Why? Because...
Oh, dude.
Dude.
Oh, dude. Too soon, dude. Too soon.
Yesterday, I thought Dufresne would never leave, and now it looks like he did leave, and now I believe in the days when he didn't leave, and I'm scared.
Mm-hmm.
What?
That was a great pick.
I just read the lyrics, except inserted the word Dufresne into it. But yeah. Although, in honesty, I think Atlanta will probably be fine. They're gonna take a hit, obviously, because Dufresne's very gifted mechanically, but like, I don't think they're gonna dip to like bottom 5 or anything like that. I think they'll be fine.
They still got a lot of talent on that roster.
Yeah, if DPS came back, like the bummer about losing Dufresne is just the fact that we never got to see him on DPS except for very rarely at the end of maps and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or Torb.
It's unlucky.
Yeah. That's the one thing, because we knew it was going to happen. I just wish that he got one DPS stage, but...
Yeah, and like I was literally getting with our guy that does the interviews, like after the games, I was like, Dufresne. He kept requesting him, but Dufresne was the only one able to refuse interviews. So like,
Oh, wow.
we were pretty worried that he was going to leave, so we just kept requesting him. It was always denied. It was a bummer. So I think he was planning on leaving probably around week 2.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he was saying on stream and stuff that he was talking to like their team psychologist, being like, I really want to quit. And then they like kept being like, you should stay. But yeah, I mean, he did quit in like before the stage even started. So like, we knew it was going to happen. I'm just bummed that we didn't see him play a new soldier.
Good for him, though. Like, really, I mean, the days of throw for Dufresne, I think, can be set to rest. Like, the dude's a stand-up dude, and he did it right, and good for him.
Yeah, Nate Nanzer even tweeted saying, like, you're a good dude. And I'm like, redemption arc complete.
Yep. Daddy Nate said it's okay.
Yeah, so it's bittersweet, but I'd say it's more sweet than bitter because he seems happy.
Absolutely. All right. Do we have any other song lyrics that we need to get through?
I have one. It's a little complex. I kind of have to preface it because I imagine one of the players singing it because that made it much funnier to me. So it's a Drake song. It's God's Plan. but then I imagine Super singing it when he's just charging in for no reason on Reinhardt and
It's God's
basically.
So does he sing it with like the high pitched voice too?
Yeah, like when he's yelling "stop" at the other team. That's what I imagined. So it's him yelling bad things. It's a lot of bad things that they wishing and wishing and wishing on me. They wishing on me, while Moth is trying to make sure that he doesn't instantly die.
While Moth is sweating like crazy.
Yeah. Moth has just done a 6-hour workout in one map by trying to keep Super alive. So that was mine.
I like it.
Can you say the lyrics again in Super's voice or no?
I don't think anyone over 13 is able to make that voice. So I don't
think your mic would be able to pick up that high of a pitch. I don't think they've made that technology yet.
I think I might break my windows, and I don't want to pay to replace them. So.
All right, well, with that being said, let's take a look back at the Stage 1 meta. So I know kind of going in, some of us were a little concerned about what the sort of like viewing experience was going to be, especially for those of us who had followed contenders leading into season number 2. So, we saw the 3-3 composition run it rampant through the path to pro, and there were a lot of naysayers about the meta going into the start of the season. A lot of people saying, like, oh, viewership is going to be down because no one wants to watch a GOATS meta. And it turns out that was really not the case in regards to the viewership. We did see a lot of 3-3 in the meta, with 5 different heroes seeing more than 83% playtime. All of which, being the components of the 3-3 comp. So we saw a lot of Lucio, Brigitte, Zenyatta, Zarya, D.Va, and Reinhardt. You had Sombra kind of on the outside looking in at 20% usage, just due to the fact that when D.Va was getting subbed out, usually a Sombra would be fit in that space. And while we didn't necessarily have any teams out there trying to like reinvent the wheel, we did have, a team like Trundu Hunters trying to run these really off-kilter Wrecking Ball compositions, which we were talking about earlier. So looking back, I know some of us were on different sides of the fence, but did the reliance of this 3-3 meta detract from your overall viewing experiences and just the enjoyment of watching Overwatch League?
I mean, I could go first. For me, it was really cool because I had been practicing with my team for months prior, playing GOATs, playing in tournaments like the Watchers Brawl and playing the GOATs meta. And it was the Sombra play was specifically interesting to me because that's what we got tore up by. Anytime we lost, the other team had a really good Sombra that was just eating us up. And that was kind of interesting for me. But at the same time, I don't know that it was great for everyone. Like, as a Ryan, it's pretty exciting, to watch GOATs because Ryan's like one of the biggest stars besides Zarya in the comp. And so you just have so much life, so much health, so much so much protection that it's just a really good time. You get to swing that hammer more than you have to hold up the shield. But I think it'll be better if DPS comes into play. Come on, 2-2-2. Nate, I'm talking to you.
See, I kind of liked watching the GOATS meta because you kind of got to see the teams perform as a team. And don't get me wrong, I like watching guys like Carpe and Prophet go off like on DPS, but it was kind of fun seeing some of these teams just like work like a machine, especially like Vancouver and teams like Vancouver, Toronto that were working the GOATS meta until they got to play teams that were better than them. But you got to see exactly like what teamwork in Overwatch League looks like instead of some of the, oh crap, we need Prophet to go 5 kill on a point. You got to see them like work on a whole different plane with this meta. I kind of enjoyed it, and maybe I'm insane, but I kind of thought it was fun. I want to see DPS come back because I kind of missed some of that, but watching this in this stage was kind of cool to me. I didn't really watch too much. I watched some of Korean contenders, especially like the finals, and saw some of it, but watching it on this level was different, and I kind of enjoyed it to an extent.
I did too. I think it was different. It was very much centered around teamwork as opposed to one person being a star and the rest of the team following up. And I think that was really cool. I think one of the hardest things was figuring out what the heck is happening most of the time, right? And I watch every game. So like I could kind of figure it out, but there was so many times where there were so many ults thrown out and you're just like, who is doing what and where is it happening? And I think some of those key plays went underappreciated, right?
Especially,
like the Lucios and
especially
the
for
Briggs.
Brig. Like Lucio's got the spotlight, but the Briggs, until Haskell in the finals, like Briggs really weren't getting the proper dues. And I mean, when you see those 3Ks, Briggs got a hell of a stun.
But Lucios don't get the proper dues either when it comes to their boops and their displacement of the other team and whatnot. Like there's so much that goes into that comp, and I feel like it was all focused on the Zarya. And I think Zarya was a big part of it, but I don't think Zarya could do anything without the rest of her team helping her out. And I think that's what I wish would have changed a little bit. But it's just a cluster F of everything happening, right? Like there's so much going on that you just can't pinpoint exactly who was responsible for that. So it's just a team game.
So
right?
the laser show on the payload.
Yeah.
And then you're like 12 ults going off, and you're like, okay, no one's freaking dead. All right, here we are.
Yeah.
Well, at least we traded, right?
Yeah.
Like, at least everybody used their ults.
Yeah.
I
For me,
kind of
you go first.
just like on the regular podcast. I kind of liked seeing the alts in the top and then like trying to figure out what can happen and then being like, oh, they need to do this. And then when that didn't happen, I was like, oh, well, then this is lost. This is terrible. And then in my head, I'd try to figure out what they could do next to win, because that was the only way I could make it fun, is if I made it a game for myself.
Although I will say, teams like San Francisco, right? Like, it was like, they should be out of this. Why aren't they out of this? And then all of a sudden people come back and you're like, oh, they're going to win this. Like, it's nuts.
Yeah. I found it fun. It wasn't as cancer as it seemed like people made it out to be online.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like a lot of people that are making it cancer, and I'm not on any kind of grand map. I'm like in bronze, silver right now. I'm trying to fucking get out of that hell. But it seems like the people that are in those levels are the ones screaming about how bad goats are that never have played goats. They played on a team with one tank, a Torbjorn, and a Symmetra, and they think that's goats. So I think some of it is people never understood what it was. It's just like they're following the mob with pitchforks and going, kill goats. And it's...
Well, I think goats just isn't as fun to watch for people that don't understand it as much, right? Because you don't get the, like, Widow headshots are exciting, right? You get the whole moment of like, and then, somebody dies. And I think
Widow headshots
that's
are not exciting. It's 3 Widow headshots in a row where everybody goes, whoa!
Or if it's like a 360, like around the corner thing.
Right. Like you should be dead, but you just killed somebody across the map. What just happened?
Yeah. I think it did have those moments at times, though, when you got some of those big diva bombs, you got just like those big grabs, that kind of thing. But yeah, they're way less frequent. But I think the thing that really makes the difference across everything, there was a tweet that somebody made a couple weeks ago. I don't remember exactly who it was, but it was something along the lines of goats may be going away, but its effects are going to be felt for a really long time because of how it encouraged teamwork and all economy and how vital those were to playing that meta. And I think that's the biggest benefit that we're going to get out of it.
Yeah. Even if we never see goats again, every player is now way better than they were before, just because of the teamwork aspect, like you said. And I think that's part of why, like, the meta did grow on me. Like, going into the season, I was like, I don't want to watch goats. And it was because I didn't really understand goats. And then after like 3 games, I was like, okay, I really get this. And instead of going in and being like, I'm looking forward to seeing this one player pop off on a character, I'm ready to see this team like work as one big unit. And like, instead of waiting for a shocking moment, it became like, doing the math in your head of like, this team has this many ultimates, this team has this many ultimates, they need to use this fight to get this ultimate so that they can win this. And like, that's a whole other entertainment kind of thing. So even
definitely
though
centered more around ultimates than
Absolutely.
yeah, even though I'm glad it's going away, because you don't want just a full season of goats. Potentially. I don't think it's being deleted. It's just
No.
But like just goats, I'm glad it's not going to be just goats anymore. But I'm also super glad that it was at least like a full stage, because we had a lot of great stuff. And there's a difference between, no offense, Florida versus Washington goats and like Shock versus Vancouver goats.
No offense taken. That was the goats I was talking about when I was saying bronze and silver goats.
And you could always take a break from goats and watch Chengdu, right?
Yeah.
And it's crazy too, because one, I feel like that meta definitely made it easier to kind of pinpoint what the weakness of each team was, just due to the team building aspect of it. But on the other side of the coin, we also had every single hero in the game being played throughout Stage 1 to varying degrees of overall usage. But we never got to see that in the past. Like, we actually got to see Symmetra. We got to see Torbjorn, and a lot of that was due to Defran, obviously, running it on Ilya as well. But none of us were really expecting something like that to happen, where in any given map, like, we might see something so off-kilter that it just throws a wrench in whatever sort of game plan a team could have going in. And it's really probably going to be the only time we might actually get to see that, so it definitely had its own flavor outside of just the 3-3 meta that we did kind of get used to seeing.
I think that if Overwatch League makes me want to play Overwatch, then it's succeeding in what it's supposed to do. And then if I'm playing Overwatch, it makes me want to play Overwatch, then I jump on and I'm disappointed 15 minutes later, and then I'm like, man, I wish I was watching Overwatch League right now. But
yeah, it gives you this like false sense of confidence, right? Like you completely can go do this, and then you get in there and you realize, okay,
your team isn't that good.
Yeah, we're not that good. We can't do this.
Pop off. I don't know.
I've just taken the Chengdu approach, and I just started playing Wrecking Ball, and fuck everything else. I'm playing Wrecking Ball. You guys work around me, and we're gonna go. We're gonna do this. It works about 4 out of 10 times.
Just like Chengdu.
Yeah, exactly.
Not right.
It's more fun though. It's more fun.
They had a good time. When they pulled out goats against Vancouver, I was like, really? It's been in your back pocket the whole time? Like, you actually can play this? And you're just like, guys, that's not cool.
They were just waiting for the right moment to really throw everyone off guard, is what it was.
We jokingly said, actually, this week, we were like, so if this meta shift, does that mean Chengdu's going to play goats in Stage 2 instead of
the
like
hipsters.
What everybody else? Yeah.
Yeah, they're like the hipsters of the league. They're like, oh, everybody else is playing Wrecking Ball. Let's do something else. This is not okay.
And then Stage 3, they'll somehow find a way to play 2 Lucio, 2 Tracer, 2 Winston, just to throw it way back. They'll figure it out.
All right, well, let's go ahead and take a look at what is changing in Stage 2 and do a little bit of our Stage 2 preview. So Stage 2 is going to be played on patch 1.34, which was one of the major balance patches. Arguably, I think it was the biggest patch that we've seen in Overwatch, just with the overall amount of changes that we saw, whether it was just balance tweaks or bug changes. They basically touched like 26 of the 30 heroes in the game, and we've never seen something to that magnitude. So that patch was dropped on live servers on March 19th, so Overwatch League will be on the current live patch when Stage 2 is underway. So just looking at a couple of the changes, and there were a lot of them, just to do a quick overview, we see beam-type damage when hitting armor getting reduced by 20%. Damage over time effects are also no longer getting mitigated by armor. They made some tweaks to knockback distances to make them more consistent, with flying heroes now being able to be knocked back and slowed. We also saw changes to Ana with her nano boost getting nerfed. Doomfist cooldowns were reduced. Junkrat got some love with his impact damage. We got a slew of Lucio changes, whether it was his speed boost amp getting nerfed as well as the speed boost effect. We saw Moira getting a couple buffs with their heal over time duration as well as her total healing. And, the list goes on and on. You can have Wrecking Ball actually use his adaptive shield when he's in ball mode. Soldier 76 pulse rifle damage was increased from 19 to 20. The list goes on, and, some of these tweaks were to directly impact the 3-3 meta. And it just seems like, well, if you can't fix the 3-3 meta, let's just buff everyone else. So, Ramsey's looking at all of the changes. Which changes are you looking forward to seeing the most coming into stage number 2?
Well, I mean, as a Houston fan, the one I immediately have to look forward to most is the Junkrat change.
But the most current Junkrat change isn't in.
Mm-hmm.
The one on PTR right now. I saw Jake pleading with Nate on Twitter about it.
So that is it at the original damage for the impacts, or is it the reduced one?
It's the projectile speed one that just came out on Tuesday, I think.
Right.
I think that's the one.
The one that's on PTR right now.
Yeah.
Doesn't it also affect bouncing or something like that?
Yeah, bounces less.
Well, and even then, Junkrat's in a little bit stronger place. Personally, though, probably, and this is one that I think got put in a while ago, but didn't even make it to the last stage. Because did the last stage have any of the armor changes?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It did? I'm completely wrong then. Forget what I said. It's the knockbacks. I think I've been missing Winston a lot, and it's been so much more fun because you see, I've been enjoying Goats this last stage, don't get me wrong, but it's nice to see kind of, there's been so many players that are known specifically for their Winston, and because to me Winston feels like so much more of a teeter-totter hero almost. You're always really close to either doing super well with Winston or completely falling flat in your face.
Yeah.
So I feel
it's really easy to feed as Winston.
Yeah. Just why I don't play Winston.
It's you could just sit there and tickle some guys with your lightning gun and do nothing for 5 seconds and then jump back out and hope no one kills you. But I think the Winston changes will be really good. I'm happy to see those, and that extends to all the knockbacks as well. It'll take a little bit to get used to. Because I think it helps keep Lucio in the meta just a little bit. I know even with the speed, with the speed amp getting nerfed a little bit, so I think that'll be good. I'm excited for that specifically, and then of course, like I said, any sort of Junkrat buffs that we can get, just so our Lord and Savior Jake can carry us to 8th seed. I will take it.
Junkrat.
Yeah, but you still have Prophet playing Junkrat for London. Just saying.
Prophet's a copycat.
You have
learns from Jake.
You have Junkrat. With because Jake's a good junk, but you also have Prophet's a good junk. Ursa's apparently a Junkrat god, as we've been told. San Francisco has 3 Junkrat players.
I really hate to burst your bubble,
so
Ramses, but Jake just happened to come into stage 1 really studying junk when no one else wanted to play him. But there's definitely more mechanically gifted players in the league that have picked him up since and have studied Jake's work and will do it better.
Oh, 1,000%. I totally agree with you. I'm trying to take our one little chance we can get and maybe foster.
They're not as cool as Jake, is what he's trying to say. So it doesn't matter.
Well, Soldier's viable too now. So Jake, he's a great Soldier 76 player. I'm defending Houston, so this is weird. So just
go with it. Go.
But he's plays a really good 76, and you got Hanamura, and you got a couple other maps where Soldier's going to be viable anyway. I think you guys might be okay.
If Soldier comes back, then
well, you got AKM.
Since Dufresne left, AKM might be the best Soldier in the league, but I don't know that Soldier's back. I think that a lot of DPS can be back this stage, but my fear is that teams are going to be too cowardly to try because it's going to take a little bit more coordination than Goats. Everybody, high-level players said that Goats was hard. It's not harder. I made it to Masters in the Goats meta as Ryan. I had never gone past Diamond prior, and it's not harder to play. It's just more team dictated, but it's not harder. Like actually executing a proper dive was definitely, you had to be pinpoint on the second. And so yeah, I think that the meta could change, but I fear that half the teams at least are going to stick to goats because they're just afraid to try something new.
Yeah,
I think initially.
Oh, good.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, I really just want to see Doomfist get him back into the swing of things. If you're Boston Uprising, especially with Blase really popping off in the PTR Pro Pugs, just due to the fact that they kind of crumbled against the Sombra 3-3 compositions, and I feel like Doomfist in particular is going to be the hero that can propel them to that next step and maybe actually, go deeper into the playoffs.
He definitely ruined my night the other night.
I think for sure that Goats is not leaving. It's not going to just die like Dive did with Brigitte. I don't think that Goats is going to see that same fate, but I do think that Goats is looking at... There are a lot of teams, mainly most of the teams that didn't make the playoffs, that weren't as good at Goats, right? They didn't have the team composition or the makeup to make Goats work. Now there might be other options. And if those teams are successful, we will get a new meta. If they're not, we will stay in Goats. Because until somebody shows everybody else that Goats is not the best meta, everybody will continue to play it. And it's up to those teams who are trying to climb their way out of, elo hell to prove to everybody that Goats isn't the meta anymore. Because if the Titans and, Shock can win playing Goats, they will. They're not going to just try something new just to show people that they have DPS, right? Like, we saw Bumper on Hanzo. That's not the best thing they've got. Like, I just think that if Houston can show them, if Dallas could show them, if Chengdu comes out and their comp is much stronger against Goats now, then people will adapt. But I don't think it's to the top teams to adapt that. I think it's to the mid-tier teams.
I think that's why people...
You're saying
were so,
Houston's a mid-tier team?
Yes, I am.
I think that's why people were so hyped about Chengdu too. It wasn't just because their games were fun. I think people were also kind of hoping that they would pull something out that would shift the meta in some way.
Right.
Which I think a lot of people were like super hyped when Jinmu jumped on Pharah, because people were like, "Is it going to change to a Pharah meta?" And then I was like, "No, he's just good." But like, I think people were hoping that there would be some new meta found. So yeah, if there's teams like Chengdu or, like you said, Dallas or Houston that actually show something like that, then I think it could be like an overnight switch where like the next day the teams are like playing nothing but yeah.
Yeah, a lot of that too, though, was just due to the fact that China as a region has their very own distinct style of Overwatch that isn't really seen as prominent in other regions. So Chengdu basically came in and were kind of introducing a Chinese style to the Overwatch League. And, it was pretty much the same thing with Guangzhou Charge for the most part as well. And I feel like we saw, like, varying degrees of success. So, like, one of the big storylines that I'm really looking forward to in Stage 2 is if we do see more DPS being brought to the table, does that mean the effectiveness of Chengdu's quad DPS is going to diminish? Just because a lot of the times when Jinmu was popping off on the Pharah, he wasn't going up against McCree or another Pharah or Widow or 76, really any sort of hit scan, or the Divas weren't pressuring him. Is he gonna have the same amount of space to work with when he starts to see, more of a counterplay against him?
Well, and was their quad DPS pick just to counter Goats, or is it something that they feel like can go against a 2-2-2 comp? I don't think they'd play the same thing against a 2-2-2 comp. I think it only worked against Goats, and it worked, half the time.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Like, it was like, you're not going to see the exact same comp, and Pharah, like, his Pharah play is going to have to change because obviously they don't have the kind of stopping or the kind of counters that will be able to stop him as effectively. Because when you throw in any hit scan, whether it's Soldier, McCree, even possibly some Ashe. Like you're not going to have that. Even or maybe even Anna. She's a great counter to Pharah. So he's going to play a different style. But I feel like the way he was playing, or like the mechanical skill that he has of it, is still going to translate, and he'll make it work, because you can still make that work. You're just going to play a lot farther away.
But what is his Pharah v Pharah 1v1, skills?
Very
like
good
is he like
We have no
Shadowbird?
idea
Is he like
because
Baby
nobody else
Bay?
did it.
Right.
Is he going to be able to handle EQO and Fleta and guys like that are just going to come at him when they do the 1v1 things? That's the kind of thing I worry about with Chengdu, is that if everybody's kind of doing not the same thing, but they're running a DPS meta, are they going to just kind of fall back a little bit with the fun, where they're just kind of getting outplayed because everybody's playing their heroes? Like you have got teams like London and the Gladiators and the Valiant to an extent, where they're going to be playing more DPS, which they like to play. They might give them more of a challenge. And you also have the other Chinese teams like Hangzhou and Guangzhou and Charge. I have trouble with the damn Chinese names.
Most people do.
Yeah, but they're going to be kind of running similar, at least in theory, they're going to be running similar comps. I think Chengdu might drop down the ladder a little bit in the surprise element with the Pharahs and some of the 4 DPS things. That's where I'm a little worried about Chengdu, but I think Jinmu's.
Chengdu's the only one that's been practicing DPS for the last stage. So come on, they gotta have an up on people just in general.
Well,
They
have
at
a
least the
strength of
first few
schedule
games.
in their favor.
Well, they play my team, I'm sure, probably somewhere.
They must not play my team.
If all else fails, then they'll just start playing goats. And
Yeah, exactly.
Really throw people for a loop. Well, something we haven't mentioned, along with that patch, is Baptiste is going to be entering the fold in stage number 2. So, just a quick overview. You have that main fire that features a 3-round burst shot that is rewarded with accuracy, and it does pretty significant damage. Baptiste has that heal over time ability in regenerative burst, which has splash heal and also with his alternate fire. We also have Immortality Field that can prevent teammates from dying, his Exo Boots that allow him to reach high ground, and then of course, we have his ult, the Amplification Matrix, which doubles damage and healing of friendly projectiles. So, looking back, we'll use Brig as an example. When Brig entered the fold, we saw Dallas Fuel last year run Brig more than every other team pretty much combined. They were running it 80% of the time, and we didn't really see other teams doing that. Now we have a new healer. Maybe we have a new jail for support players to be stuck in. That remains to be seen. But I'm going to throw this one over to the guys over at the Overwatch. What do you guys feel like is going to be the usage of Baptiste across stage number 2? Are you expecting to see him at all? Or is this going to be something that's going to be maybe a team or two really trying to bring him in as their own unique style?
It seems like Adam wants me to talk here. So I think that we'll see a lot of the Lucio players switch over, flex to him if need be, which I think would probably be about 20% of the time, because I'm not sure if they'll figure out how to play him at this point and how much they can rely on him to heal. But I think that Lucio players like Moth, let's say, would switch over, because having Moth and Violet on Zen, or Moth on Baptiste and Violet on Zen, would be an extremely powerful pairing in a healing lineup if you're doing 2-2-2. So I could see a lot of main healers switching over, mostly just to try and get some ranged heals, but also make it so that they can dive a little bit. I'm slightly confused as what they could use him for, honestly, besides bunker, just straight bunker comps, because he kind of can ranged heal, but not really unless you're really good. And he kind of can bunker, except not really, because the cooldowns are very long. So I think they just have to figure out something for him to be used for. So maybe a 10% Chengdu style comp is his usage rate for this stage.
I think that we might actually see like him being subbed in like one of the DPS slots. Like if it goes back to 2-2-2, I wouldn't be surprised if like on the Outlaws, for example, if they had 2 healers playing, but then Jake jumped on Baptiste because, first of all, because Jake's used to throwing arced projectiles from playing Junkrat, so maybe
also soldier,
yeah,
like
exactly.
his soldier experience. A lot of like Harry Hook too.
Yeah,
is a healer that
Kareev
has
would be
that
another
soldier.
one to come to mind.
Yeah, so I feel like there's a couple DPS and some healers that have shown that they can play multiple heroes because he's kind of like a multi-faceted hero. Like he's got projectiles, he's got hit scan, and he heals. So I feel like we might see some DPS jump on him, but yeah, I'm still not sure. And his, what's it called, invulnerability matrix
Yes.
thing. Anyway,
The
that
invincibility field.
yeah, but that I don't know how teams. I'm interested to see how teams are going to use him. It's like when we were going to see Wrecking Ball for the first time. It was like, how are teams going to use this? I'm excited to see how they use that and how they use his ultimate. Because I've played some games with some Batiste players on my team, and no one's used it right so far.
No, nobody.
Yeah. I mean, I could tell you the invulnerability field or whatever it's called will be used at the last second. Basically, the last second before a bomb or before any big damage ult, it'll be used right before that. Like Junkrat's
the cooldown's not that long on it though. So
yeah, but I mean like
wait.
Junkrat's
Tire.
The rip tire.
His tire. Like basically what everybody does is like spread out, when that's coming. But at this point they'll be like, get in, make sure Baptiste survives. All you gotta do is hit it, and then you are weak at that point. They can clean you up pretty fast, but it will definitely stop the entire team from dying, or even one person too. And so that's what I think it'll be used for last second.
Yeah, I'm curious to see like with his ultimate if this is gonna be something that is used to try to get a quick pick, or if it's gonna be used more for like burst healing, since it does kind of do a little bit of both. But it seems like at the end of the day, Baptiste and his usage is going to be a varying degree just due to how much positioning is going to be involved, kind of like working a composition around him. And like really the easiest thing to kind of compare that sort of positioning to is like with Symmetra's teleport. Like we don't necessarily get to see the full usage out of teleport, and that's really like my main concern with Baptiste when it comes to things that might not like be the thing to allow these teams to bring him in. It just seems to be a lot of different components that are gonna add like an extra layer of teamwork to the fold, and I feel like that's going to detract teams from actually trying to use him into set strategies.
Yeah,
I think for sure it always takes people a lot longer to, not people, but in general, the pros a lot longer to adapt to a new hero, because there's so much that goes into having a new hero and the teamwork behind it and what other heroes mesh with it, that I think it's going to really complicate teams wanting to run it. And until we see somebody like Mickey come out on Brigitte and destroy, we're not going to see Baptiste in pro play as much. Maybe situationally, we'll see him here and there, but I don't think we're going to come out of the gates in stage 2 and see Baptiste meta. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think he provides a lot of utility, and I think he has the potential, but look at Ana in the just competitive scene. Ana came out very strong, but wasn't played, and then was nerfed and then buffed and then saw a lot of play, right? And I think people just figured out how to work with her kit and how to make that work with the other characters involved.
Yeah, I'm not expecting a whole lot. I feel like he's going to be, at least in stage 2, I think he's going to be relegated to May at the very last second to save a point type thing, or just very situationally similar to like Moira, where you need a lot of burst healing really quickly, and that's really about the full extent that we're going to see of him.
So but I don't think that means that he's underpowered. Right. I think he's coming into the scene pretty overpowered, but I think his synergy with other characters just isn't known yet.
So it seems the majority of us are expecting pretty low play time, and then maybe it to ramp up when we get into stage 3 once the teams have more time to just get used to his toolkit.
I think
go ahead.
Sorry about that. I think it's in I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility though that we see one of the lower teams, one of the bottom third, do something similar to what Dallas did. Hey, let's just go with this to see what works. We have nothing to lose at this point. It might still be too early to hit the panic, but I think that we're gonna. I could see at least one or two teams deciding, hey, we're gonna make him a major part of our strategy until we get rolled and he goes.
I think historically, though, we've seen the opposite, right? Sorry, you were cutting out. I was just saying historically, I think we've seen the opposite.
No, I think I agree. Yeah, it's been a very robotic evening here at my house. No, I think I agree. I know with Brig, like it took a little bit, and then like it took a while, and then Mickey finally kind of solved it in front of like the whole world with Overwatch League. Then is like everybody started putting Brig into the lineups. I don't think that's wrong. I think it's probably still what's going to happen. I don't necessarily think teams aren't. I think teams are going to try and give it like one or two attempts, see how it goes, and if they get rolled, then all right, well, we didn't expect to win that point. Switch back to where we're at.
Does anybody else have no fucking idea what he just said?
Yeah, I mean it was choppy. It was a little choppy, right? I guess what I took from it was that he thinks the bottom teams have nothing to lose, but I feel like the bottom teams have more to lose right now than the upper teams, right? Like you're more likely to see it from a Vancouver Titans or an NYXL because they don't have anything to lose than you do from a Mayhem or a Justice who, like, the more games they lose, the farther and farther they get from even a chance at the playoffs, right?
We're gonna start the May Baptiste meta. That's what we're doing.
Right, but like we saw Mickey bring it out in stage 4 because they had no chance of making the season playoffs, but they could make the stage 4 playoffs, right? And so there wasn't anything to lose for them. They either go for it and show that they've got something, or they are out of everything, right? So that's what you see, and I think we have more of a chance of seeing it from some of those mid-tier teams that know they can't beat Vancouver at GOATs, but maybe if they come up with this different strategy with Baptiste in it, they can have a chance, right? I think that's where we'll see it.
Yeah, and for these lower teams too, stage 2 is gonna make or break them in regards to those end of season playoffs. So it might be too high risk for them to try to bring something new into the fold. Outside of these new changes in regards to balance updates, we also have a new map pool and a new map in the map pool. So we have Paris going into stage number 2. We also have some changes to the map order. So they switched Assault and Hybrid maps. So that was done to like reduce the likelihood that a match is going to be decided partway through the third map. So the new map order is going to be Control, Assault, Hybrid, Escort with Control Tiebreaker, be it map number 5 if need be. And just looking at the map pool, we have Lijiang Tower, Oasis, and Busan for your control maps. We have Paris, Anubis, and Hanamura for Assault. Hybrid being Blizzard World, Eichenwald, and Kane's Row. And then for Escort, we have Junkertown, A Watchpoint Gibraltar, and Rialto. So, pretty healthy mix across the board. I'm really happy to see a couple of names popping back up. We still keep the OG map in Kane's Row. But taking a look at this map pool, and I'll direct this one over to, I'll recap. What maps are you guys excited to see entering the fold? And what sort of like compositions we might see return based off of these newer maps being added?
I mean, I'm really excited to see Junkertown because I'm a Houston fan. So obviously that one's cool. I'm excited to see Kings Row because it's Spree's Row. So we're good there. And I think Paris will be interesting. I think that for me, I just want the pros to show me how to play on Paris because I have no idea.
Confusing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's like the main thing. Like, I think Paris is a crazy map right now. And I think it's because we haven't seen any of the top level play it and give us that, like, hey, here's the choke, or here's what you do here, or here's where you stand. Right now, everybody's all over the place. So I am excited to see that. But I like the map pool. I like the map change, the differences, because it was kind of deflating when you would hold a team and then you knew all you could get was a tie and that was it. Like, it was just kind of like, oh, okay, I guess that's the best we can get, right? So
I'll go with ditto.
Nice. Yeah, pretty much the main thing is what you said. I have no idea what to do on Paris.
Right?
It's just an open. There's one entrance for the attackers, and then it's just an open field, and it's like I have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing. So
I mean,
hopefully,
That backpoint has no high ground. It's terrible.
Right.
Yeah.
We see so many like bumper compositions like ahead of where the actual control point is, and like that seems to be like the majority of the compositions that at least we've been seeing on ladder. Whether or not that's going to be the case on the pro scene remains to be seen, but it's just out of the maps that have been added to the rotation, it's definitely been one of the more confusing ones that a lot of us are just trying to just figure out because of how narrow the alleyways are on that map.
but then how open the points are, and like it's a hot mess.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I've thought about for Paris is just like a far on first point, maybe, because they have the buildings up on the high left side that no one seems to think they can get through. But like you can kind of sneak through there, so maybe that. But that's about all I can come up with.
I mean, if we compare it to the other 2 CP map that has been added, like, say what you will about Horizon, because a lot of people have strong opinions about that map. But I remember when it came out, a lot of people were like also confused about how you were going to play that, because there's like those walls, and people were like they can just hide behind the walls, and then people will get on point, and then it's like we don't know what to do, and then there's this random space bit, so like people were confused about that too. So
Don't go into space. Just don't go into space, guys.
Yeah, but yeah, it'll be interesting. I think it'll be pretty much the same as Horizon, where once pro teams show us how to play it, it'll be like, oh, why didn't we see that before? It's so obvious. But
that makes sense.
Playing it kind of feels like they took all of the worst points of all of the assault maps and put it into one. You got no high ground. You have that kind of weird point, like in Anubis point A, where you have that kind of small that small area in the front with we have that little choke point, and then you have high ground kind of, and then then behind that you have environmental. It's just the first point is kind of a mess, and the second point there's no high ground. It's just kind of weird. I hate the map, I guess. I like Horizon though. I'm one of the weird people that liked Horizon. I hated it at first, and then I kind of was like, well, I kind of watch, like you said, watch the pros play, and I'm like, all right, now I like it because now I know what to do.
I think that's kind of the point. Like I hated every map till I knew how to play it.
Except for King's Row.
The biggest question is, do you think Paris will be good on Paris?
No.
I don't think Paris will be good on any map, honestly.
Yeah, agreed.
But they've got all this background information, guys. They've got the insider knowledge. I think they've got to do it.
They're gonna glitch through the map and be like, "There's tunnels under Paris. We know this."
I mean, for me, I think the bigger question is, how is Doa going to do with the French pronunciation on this map as opposed to Rialto? Yeah. I don't know. But I feel like I need to have a bet with Adenar when it comes to the first time we see Paris, whether or not one of the players is going to go around murdering the Omnic butlers and bartenders.
Yeah.
Or play the piano. Can we get some piano playing from somebody?
I'm sure that'll happen, too. But just looking at this map pool, I'm really excited to see Eichenwald and Watchpoint Gibraltar back into the rotation. Eichenwald is probably going to lead to a lot of dive compositions. And Gibraltar typically has been a map where the compositions flexes based on what point we're on. And we see a lot of Widowmaker play on that map as well. So there's a couple of maps that kind of have their very own distinct play style. And, you know, you could say the same thing about Junkertown. We could see the return of these 8-7 attacks running a lot of pirate ship on Junkertown. So, you know,
pirate ship with Baptiste.
Maybe they'll have to readjust the match time again if we see that return.
I'm happy to see Eichenwald and Gibraltar, and they're two of my favorite maps because you can get so many different comps, especially now when we don't know what comps we're going to run. You're going to get my team actually has a chance because we can run a double sniper comp, and we can have Tavik on Hanzo and Saya player can actually play. Doesn't mean he's going to have any tank help or healing help, but you know, at least some heads will get clicked. You know, I mean, these maps are
baby steps.
Oh, baby steps. I'm not. Now I'm going to start getting tilted. I don't know. Baby steps should have been taken last year. Anyway,
I prefer the the 9 pound 8 ounce baby Jesus version.
Yeah, I honestly think that like this map pool is one of, at least for me personally, one of the strongest map pools. Like the only map that I see like that I don't like very much is Blizzard World, but it seems like watching the pros play, it's not that bad. Like it's fun to watch the pros play any map, honestly. But like Blizzard World isn't that bad watching them play. Like I love Lijiang Tower, I love Oasis, Temple of Anubis, but like yeah, Blizzard World is a bit of a yikes from me.
Yeah,
I'm with you on that. It's one of my least favorite maps altogether to watch, and to even to watch these guys to play by myself. Like, oh god, it's the worst map, and I feel like I get it the most. But no, I think that
I like Blizzard World.
It looks
pretty
nice.
I love the way it
go
looks.
there.
Yeah, I want to go there. I don't want to shoot anybody though.
You guys, when I was at BlizzCon when they announced it, I was literally sitting there like, there's a Blizzard theme park? This is so cool. And then they were like, the new map. And I was like, oh.
Part of your inside died.
I want to go to the park, not play. Oh, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Cool.
you know, something that we need to consider too is, you know, with Temple of Anubis back into rotation and a Junkrat changes, maybe we'll get back to that Season 1 defense on the high ground running the Widowmaker and the Junkrat. Because we did see a couple of teams try to bring that for their defensive strats, but we didn't see it as much as the 3-3. Do you guys feel like with a Junkrat buff set, we'll see more of an even split between those two defensive approaches?
Oh, that defense is definitely coming back.
Yeah, I think so too.
Especially, when Atlanta ran it, I don't remember who they ran that against, but I do remember that was one of the times that they didn't have Defran in, and they still looked really good. Mm-hmm. And Erster was just going nuts on Junkrat on that map, and so I think that map especially, that defense is coming back. I don't know if that's going to be effective on too many other maps, but I do think we're going to see more bunker comp, especially with the what's her name, Orisa changes. I think that's going to probably add a little bit to that, especially maybe in some pirate ship comps. We'll see that a little more as well.
I think we're going to see Junkrat too on Point B, like on Horizon, where you had guys like Fleta and Prophet and Jake that were hanging out in the rafters. We're going to see a lot more of that, I think, too. Junkrat's going to be pretty prevalent, unless, you know, they figure out Goats is not going away, then, you know, who knows. But I think, honestly, with the changes to Junkrat, especially on Anubis, Point A, and Point B, especially on Horizon, where you can kind of hide up there on those rafters and just rain hell from the sky. It's just going to be Junkrat City on at least on the assault maps.
Although,
at least as far as me,
is anybody excited about Junkertown again? Like, it might be pirate ship coming back, but all I know for sure We're gonna have those damn didgeridoos to start every match. Wow, 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 wow.
It's like when a custom game gets paused and you're like right in the middle of a Zarya beam or something, and you're like, okay, could we just like unpause just for a second and just stop that? Yeah. I feel you.
All right, so with that being said, obviously, with all these balance changes and potential meta shifts, there's definitely a chance that we'll be seeing some more usage out of select heroes out there. So I want to get everyone's predictions on some of the meta shifts that we're expecting to see, maybe a little bit more prevalent as compared to stage number 1. So obviously, it seems like for the most part, a lot of us are feeling like 3-3 is probably still going to be the primary composition that we are going to see, but let's just speculate on, some of the heavy DPS comps that we could be seeing, or just general compositions as a whole. So I'll direct this one over to you guys. What are you expecting to see in regards to these other compositions outside of the GOATS meta?
Like what heroes?
I don't know, dude. I mean, I have no clue. It's so hard to tell. I mean, we didn't use over half of the heroes in the pool being DPS the entirety of last stage. It's hard to tell. I mean, honestly, if teams were smart, they would look at this patch as a chance to look at their players and be like, what do they excel at the most? All right, let's try a comp with that, and of course Diva stays a staple, but then you can switch out the tank regardless for main tank. You can you can switch the DPS out depending on the map. Like, there's so many different possibilities to speculate. I mean, I just honestly have no clue.
Yeah, I feel like you said, teams. I feel like the meta is so up in the air and like open right now, and nobody knows what it is. That teams might be able to straight up be like, "What do our players play best?" and just play that, which I don't think has ever really been able to be a thing before. It's usually this is the meta, but if teams can just play what they're best at and see if that works, that is the ideal
There's
situation.
so many changes that came through.
Yeah.
I mean, you might just find yourself the next thing, you know what I mean? Like, but either way, there's so many changes, you're going to catch teams slipping, period. Because they're just going to be like, I did not realize that did so much damage when Mercy buffs this. And, I mean, there's just so many things that are left up in the air that, I mean, teams could get away with a lot of stuff.
Well, when you think of traditional sports too, you think of like football, and not everybody runs the same meta, right? Like, every team has their own specialized characters where it's like, this team has a strong running game, and this team has a strong slot receiving core, and this team can throw it way down the field, right? Like, everybody has their own things that come into it that make you a better team.
And this team has the quarterback that can throw the no-look pass across his body, across the field.
Or with his left hand, it doesn't matter.
Mahomes.
I'm not saying anything as a Broncos fan. We got Flacco.
Listen, we live in Colorado right now, and it's the worst thing ever.
Oh, it's the worst thing ever. I have to go to Walmart and see all this Broncos
so much
crap
orange
every day. It kills me. Ugh.
But I will say, to be honest, I think all these hero changes, balancing changes, and everything that they're making, it seems like they're making every hero stronger. I feel like it's leading us into a 2-2-2 lock. And I think that's because to get into a 2-2-2 lock, you have to balance every single character, and you have to do it so much. Because right now you put a 2-2-2 lock in, Briggs out the window, Roadhog's out the window. Like, there's, just 6 characters that are meta now. So I think that this is going to make me barf. I just threw up in my mouth a little bit. It's fine. But
Kind of like watching your team play in Overwatch League too?
No, not at all.
Oh, the salt has started.
We're still better than your team.
The salt is
Just saying.
My team's terrible.
my team keeps me wanting. I've been a Chiefs fan my whole life. Like I'm used to this whole like we're building. Eventually we'll get Mahomes and we'll make it work. But I just think that we're moving into this meta, and I think that we will likely see different characters, and ideally we see a more team balanced approach where it is kind of like what Bob was saying, where it's like you have a team that has these characters that are good. How can we make a composition that benefits that? And I think it's going to be more map balanced as opposed to just here's your composition, figure out how to play this on every map. And I would love to see that. I'd love to see, hey, on this map we get this. Like, how much fun was Control this season, this last stage, right? Like, Control was where you saw the most variation in compositions. And I think that was awesome.
But I mean, Control, you're always going to see different. I mean,
but we didn't in Dive.
We
didn't in Dive.
Yeah, you are right. We didn't see it in Dive. But Control is just so different from every other competitive map type in the game.
Right, but I think Goats is just typically not as good on Control. That's why we saw more variation there.
I think what we're really going to see is probably, the most differences from team to team, from map to map, across the board. I think we're going to see the most diversity of characters played that we've seen in the league yet. I truly think that is going to happen because there are going to be teams that are going to be in that middle tier, like you said, that are going to try something different, and they'll find something that works. And then there will be another team that's going to do something a little bit different that works somewhere else. And I think that's just going to continue to progress, and every team is going to be a little bit different where they have that really strong player that makes that comp work in that certain map or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's the ideal situation, is any hero can be played and everyone's playing their strongest hero. I don't know if that'll be it, but I sure hope so, because the ideal meta is no meta.
Yeah, exactly. It's just rock, paper, scissors than it is right now, where, this has to be done to counter this, or you're mirroring that because they have that. I think, like you guys have been saying with the, play your best hero, and maybe we can make, like, it's kind of almost the Chengdu theory, where we're going to play Ameng on Wrecking Ball because that's his best hero. He's not as good on Rhine or Winston, so let's run that and see if we can run something around that. I kind of like that better than just going to, all right, we have Goats, we have Dive. You have to run Genji Tracer Dive, or you have to run, Zen Goats, or, on this map we're running Winston Goats. I like the fact where, like my team, for instance, like I said before, all right, we got two really good sniper players. Let's try and run a double sniper comp with them. It's kind of like that. I am excited about that.
Yeah, and it doesn't make... Okay, so... Lots of people in competitive esports always go with meta, but I think they're missing the point. Like the Overwatch League could become the next big thing, because think about how popular the NFL would be if everybody ran the 4-3 defense, or everybody ran the 46 defense, or everybody ran the 3-4 defense. It would be extremely boring, and if it changed year to year, you would have teams going from being one of the most dominant defenses to one of the worst. And I think that if Overwatch League coaches could really just change their mentality and really get their players to believe it, I believe there's enough diversity in this game that they can find the other things, and playing your players at their best position could be the best thing that you could do. Like freaking Fisher, he's not a good Reinhardt. Like he's just not, and
he's
like
a feeder.
Yeah, so like, why not just try, something else? But I think to get there, we really do need the 2-2-2 lock. I think that's the only way that we actually get to the meta that I am talking about, because there's just, when you have 3 healers, you have 3 tanks, it's just really hard to fucking kill them.
Yeah, I feel like my hopes in regards to any sort of changes that we are going to see is just due to the knockback changes. I'd prefer to see more Winston enter the fold at that main tank spot. And it's partially that, but it's also the other part where we saw a lot of Zarya's really struggling with her overall toolkit with bubble management, and we saw how much that impacted certain teams.
Yeah, because they're all DPS.
Yeah. And
like they all have like DPS in mind rather than like protecting their team.
Bubble
like it's a
management.
completely
Right.
different mindset.
Right, that's
Right, like the tracking was insane, but the bubble management was suspect on 90% of them.
yeah, that's
Even
why
the
Fate
brand.
looks so
Yeah.
terrible for the Valiant, just because he wasn't getting the protection from Kareev, and then it brought Fate in that state of mind where he was playing more passive because he didn't know whether or not he was going to be getting the protection from his Zarya player, to the point where there was a lot of times where Fate was just playing on his back foot the entire time, and then at that point the Valiant just kind of got rolled over. But
To be fair though, Fate hammered a lot. He
did.
definitely ulted a lot of walls.
This is true.
This guy hates walls. Get away from the walls. He hates walls.
Hey, there were a lot of breakables that he took care of on the maps. So,
I also think too, like at that point, they're trying to make a play for their team, right? They're trying to be the hero, and Goats isn't a hero meta, and
No.
I think that made teams fail a lot. Their Reinhardts looked very weak, but it wasn't their Reinhardts necessarily being weak. It was their Reinhardts trying to make a play because the rest of their team wasn't, and then not playing together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do think too that we will see more implementation of Wrecking Ball into compositions, whether it's going maybe to that heavier dive style tank duo with Diva, or maybe just seeing more triple DPS composition surface after Chundu's varying degrees of success with it in stage 1.
Well, I'm definitely down with some more Katy Perry.
well, I like the.
It
the
took everything in my body not to break out with. It came in like a wrecking ball.
Isn't that a Miley Cyrus joke?
That's Miley Cyrus.
Yeah, that's Miley Cyrus.
I know.
Wrong pop singer. You said Katy Perry.
Yeah. He
Oh,
was
dude,
wrong,
I totally
though.
did. I was wrong. Sorry, I was just. I definitely don't want more Miley Cyrus, but I'll take more Katy Perry.
I like this. Honestly, I like the speed though. The fast pacedness of like a Wrecking Ball Diva comp. I kind of like that. It's just it adds to the excitement. It like if that comes in after the Goats meta, some people like that never watched this until like this year are gonna be like, what in the crap is this like high speed? There's balls flying around. There's some tank flying around. There's what's that guy that's spinning around with the dragon thing?
This is a family show.
Hey, I dropped the F words. I did not drop the F word this time. I'm good.
Just talking
It
about
takes a lot
balls.
for me to
A
not
lot of
swear.
balls
Why
flying around.
fucking not?
Really.
Yeah, Cal has to deal with me at work in like a retail setting where, and I worked
Is there
in
a
a
lot of
kitchen.
balls
for all my
flying
life.
around there too?
Oh, I've gotten called into offices and things, offending old ladies by what the fuck. They're worse than that, even.
Oh yeah.
I do feel like if people watching ABC were confused by this meta, they're gonna have no clue what's going on in whatever's coming next. Because I feel like there's gonna be a lot of kind of chaos comps that are being
Oh
run.
yeah.
Like you play Ball and May and like maybe some Baptiste and like just throw a bunch of weird stuff at the enemy and just see if they can deal with it. So yeah, it's going to be confusing to watch if you haven't been watching already.
Well,
I
if
feel
it
like
ends
the
up
new
like some of
camera
those.
crew. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I feel like the new camera crew is gonna have a world of hurt going into a different title meta, right? Because right now it's all centered, right?
Yeah,
like
right.
you can pretty much see every player all the time
Good
just
point.
by looking at one point in the map. And we go to a Wrecking Ball sniper whatever meta, and they're gonna be like, boom, 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 boom,
Yeah.
boom. Like I don't know where to look. Like it's
Although
going to be
this
very
team-
difficult.
did catch the Defran over the building grab, which was
that was amazing.
Yeah.
So I think I have faith in this team, and I got to meet him in person opening week. I got to take a tour, and I got to go in there and meet the guys and gals that do this. It's 6 people, and like they are on top of it. They're like on their little mics. They're like, move a mic, move a camera to blah 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 blah. I mean, they're just like talking. Like it's like us shot calling in game, but it's like them shot calling watching.
Yeah,
It's really cool.
I do think spectating has been a lot. Like it's been a step up from last season, and like they had to learn a whole new way of spectating, like compared to last season too, because like Goats Comp is like such a centered thing, so they had to learn a whole new way, and they adapted well. So I have hope, but it's still going to be confusing for the viewer.
Well,
We
like
will
they
say
kind of
we
had it a
watched
little
it-
easy last year, though, right? With like they just sit on
Just
Widow
follow the
half,
Widow.
like half the time
Widow or
because
Tracer.
she like showed everything, and so
I do think this year they did a lot more not first person view, which I think was probably good, but it's because of the meta, right? Like you could not first person somebody or third person somebody and see everything going on. But I will say we were watching the finals with a couple of our friends that have never played Overwatch or watched Overwatch or anything, and one of them sits down and was like, "Man, I don't have a clue what's going on, but this camera guy makes me feel like I do because he's, moving it around and I can see it. I feel like I know what's going on." And I was like, all right, we're halfway there.
the best though was the I'm blanking on his name now, and I've met him a few times, but one of my oldest friends, really good friends who came up with him, was sitting there and he was watching. He was really into it. He's like, so what I'm seeing here is like usually when the purple hair girl dies, the rest of the team dies. It's like the purple hair
Pretty
girl
much.
is like the most important. We were like, hot damn, dude. You ever think about doing Overwatch
got it.
analysis? Like you never even played the game.
Which, by the way, the map score thing is super confusing to people that don't know. Like, he's like, what is this? Like, this thing comes up and it's like 2 1 0 2 3 3. Like, and then I just don't get it. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess that doesn't really make sense unless you know what's going on.
Yeah. I've been
Kind of a
watching with
confusing
some people who haven't watched before, and they'll win one round of one map, and they'll be like, so they won the game? And I'm like, no, they have to go, the other team has to go, and then if they do what they did, then they go again and see if they can do it, and then they get 1 point, and then it's first to 3 points. And they're like, what?
They're like, I'm sorry.
I mean, the
and they do
best
that how
way
many
that
times?
I found to explain it was like the NFL. You have your chance on offense, and then you have your chance on defense, and it's the best way I've been able to
Except for control. Then you
That's
can.
like tennis.
Control is the easiest one to explain to
It's
any
the King of the Hill
because
for me.
any kid played King
Yeah.
of the Hill where he threw someone off a big rock that you made the hill. Like everybody played King of the Hill.
The hardest is
What kind
payload,
of
because I'm
childhood
like,
did you have?
I'm a boy.
People off the rocks.
Everybody here in this room has played it except for you.
Yep.
the hardest to explain is like payload or hybrid, because it's like
Oh yeah.
they capture a point and then they push a payload, and then they're like, what's a payload? And I'm like, it's like a truck. And they're like, why are they like, they get behind it and they have to push it? And it's like, no, they just stand near it. And
Do
it's
they
like,
have to drive it?
Make
Yeah,
sure
it's
that
like-
they know that the payload heals them.
You
which
guys,
most
Yeah.
people
Epic.
still don't know.
Most people still don't
God.
know.
epic
3
guys.
years into the game.
We need a mode where you have to drive the payload. You need a driver. You have a tank and a
No,
driver.
I've seen way too many Grand Theft Auto videos.
You
People
can
would
run
just
people
be,
over.
People they'd be stuck like Austin Powers in Austin Powers 2.
Maybe only Bastion can drive it, and his like turret sits on top of the payload, and then
Wait,
it's like
so- I'm just saying,
We
if,
got
if
this.
we come into a meta where somebody needs to drive something, I think Florida already wins because Devik has all that bus driving.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, good,
Hey,
good
there
point.
we go. There's our
Good point.
championship. Awesome. We got the bus driver. What do you guys got?
yeah.
Ugh.
Oh man.
All right. Well, before we wrap things up, another thing that we need to talk about is the level of team parity that we saw in Stage 1. So, obviously, we had our top-tier teams that went 7-0, to varying degrees of success in the playoffs, mind you. But we had a lot of teams that were either sitting at 4-3 or 3-4. So, looking ahead, do you guys feel like this is going to be something that we're going to be seeing throughout the season just due to the less amount of games being played per stage, or do you feel like over time it's going to differentiate a bit more as we progress?
Yes.
I think it's harder to
Yes.
I think it's harder to prepare for teams now that there's a lot more in the league, right? Before you could kind of really focus on which teams you were going to play and what their style was. I think if we continue to see this kind of morphing meta, I do feel like you're not going to get to go up against the same teams as many times. You're also not going to get to scrim against some teams because they don't want to scrim against you because they have other options now, right? And I think that's where we're seeing the parity in the league, where it's like Seoul can defeat NYXL in the playoffs, right? Like, what? But it happened, and I love that, right? Like, and every week it was some crazy upset that you're like, whoa, this just happened. And it's super cool, and I love that.
Yeah, if they have this many PTR changes from stage to stage, then parity is going to be alive and well for the entirety, because just like Mel mentioned, or someone mentioned way earlier, like the teams that are on the bottom are always going to be incentivized to go ahead and try for that stage and do something crazy. And yeah, parity is going to be alive unless you're the Washington Justice. Sorry, Justice. Although you guys have
unless
Arc.
Arc, yeah, I was going to say, unless Arc saves
yeah, you
them.
guys, you guys
Arc
might
will
be
save them.
entering a whole new world.
Well,
Hey, and to clarify, I did not say that the bottom teams would be trying new things, because I don't think they will. They will try to force the
'Cause
meta
they're
with the
dumb.
players that they don't have.
They'll try at
And
stage 2, but stage 3, when they're
They will not.
already
I don't
out
think they
of
will.
the finals, they'll try whatever.
Maybe, yes. But I think you'll see the mid-tier teams trying in stage 2, because they either have to step up or get out of the way.
Well, then I disagree with you. Then I don't think the mid-tier teams will
Well, that's weird.
take a chance.
It's kind of weird to like think about what is a mid-tier team though, because it seems like when you look at the standings, there's
Everybody but the
15 of them?
Justice and Valiant.
yeah, like Justice, Valiant, Mayhem are at the bottom, and then you have Vancouver, New York, arguably Shock at the top.
And then
And
everybody
then
else.
everyone else
going
is
to
like-
have to, you're going to have to judge it stage by stage, because I mean, New York Excelsior, if it was the dive meta, would have for sure won last year. It wouldn't have been a question. It would have been a stomping. And like, I think that's what's going to keep parity alive, is the fact that teams are going to have to change frequently, and that's going to be the big difference.
Which changes this from traditional sports so much, right? Because traditional sports, you work on perfecting a thing. And here, you have to look at adaptability. Because your team has to be more adaptable than Epic at getting better at this certain stage. It's also going to lead people to throw stages, quotes, throw stages, because it's not their meta, right? And you can afford to lose a stage.
Juicy
Kind of-
fan.
It's like a much faster version of what happened in basketball with the 3-point revolution thing with Golden State, where that took 3 years. This could take like 2 weeks, and then the whole standings have flipped, and you have some new team on top.
Yeah.
Right.
I feel like
Yeah, really good example there.
Yeah.
I definitely
I also-
understood what he was saying.
Me too.
Yeah, I don't watch a lot of basketball, but that was a really, really good. Yeah, it was a really good example.
Yeah,
I do think though, where we're going to have the three. I think the 3 bottom teams, and like you guys said, the 3 top teams are going to be the same. But I also think that some of the teams that have better coaching in the mid table, which is everybody else except for 5 teams, 6 teams, are going to start rising to the top because they're going to be able to figure out their own team meta, or what they need to do to beat certain teams better than some of the other teams. Like I've been watching a lot of Toronto, and I'm a kind of a fan. You see my icon on Discord, but I think guys like Bishop and some of the guys like Dallas, for instance, they have Arrow and Jane. They're going to figure out things before other guys do.
Mm.
And I think that's going to propel some of these teams higher from that mid-table sort of area, that jumbled mess of teams, up into top 5, top 10.
I love the fact that coaching could be a higher priority too. Right? It's unreasonable for us to think that these players should play the game and coach themselves. And I think that seeing top level coaching take a team to a different level is huge. And it makes them so much more valuable and so much more sought out. And I want to see that more in the league. I'd like to see them be able to talk to their teams more in the league while games are going on, or in between offense and defense, like huddle up, let's do this.
Yeah, traditionally in esports, like coaching really doesn't matter. Like you'll see coaches leave. It's really the team captain that actually makes the difference. I mean, the example is the Philadelphia Fusion's contenders team. Arrow left. They didn't lose a step because it's all about the team captain. But I think Overwatch could bridge that gap, and like that would be really cool just to change esports in general, because coaches have kind of been a joke in the past, to be quite honest.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that does kind of actually go back a little bit to the traditional sports, in the sense that the really good teams, especially like thinking of the NFL, they have coaches that can make adjustments. And I think adjustments are going to be really the key to any major team in this league. And it already is the case when you look at some of these top tier teams. I mean, look at London when they went on their run to win the championship. That was coaching, but that was also their team. And it was just all of them together, working together to figure out what do we need to do to effectively stop what they're doing and put ourselves in the best position to win. And I think that's key in just about any sport. And that's definitely growing more so in this league than in any other esport.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Well, and I think they need to give their coaches more time to interact with the players during the game, because I think that's what's missing right now, is that you can't rely on your coach because your coach isn't there, and your coach can't talk to you until after your game's over. So you have to have somebody to rely on during the game. Yeah, but after your game, your match is over. So you get to talk to them at halftime. You've already played 2 matches. If you're coming from behind, it's like, okay. Like,
I would love if they allowed one coach to sit in a room by themselves and just call team comp changes. Like, so the players could just play the game. And they're literally on comms,
with them?
And they can only spectate from first person view of one of their players. Like, they
why not have them on stage with everybody else?
Well,
right? Like,
okay.
Have them in the 7th seat.
Contenders has started to show hero swaps on screen now, so I don't know if that's going to be something that they're going to bring over to the Overwatch League, but it might be something to keep an eye on for.
Well, and that's another good point. Contenders is getting much stronger now, and that's another place that coaches can really pull good comps from early. Like, goats hit, contenders first. The only problem is if they're on different patches. So Overwatch League should really try and keep the Overwatch League and contenders on the same patch.
Well, really I think too, if they can look at the continuum of esports players, right? So esports players want to go into esports, know that they're going to make good money, and then know that they have a life after esports, right? Whether that be casting or coaching or something like that. You see people go into traditional sports and they have options after they're done, right? You don't want to get to be
car dealerships.
22 and you don't want to get to be 22 and be an ex-retired esports player and have nothing to do now. because there's no value in your skills.
Yeah.
Sorry, I
point.
went on a tangent.
Yeah, very good point. I mean, there's some guys that are kind of doing it, like Swoosh is doing some coaching because, I mean, he wasn't the best tank. I'm a Mayhem fan, so yeah.
Same
Yeah, I
with,
mean,
Clockwork's
Clockwork
Coach.
Yeah, I was gonna say Clockwork did the same
Thank
thing.
God. Thank God.
Coco's doing the same thing too.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of players that like, because Jake was very like, I mean, obviously he casted the World Cup, so he was very public about like, I know that I'm not always going to be a player, so I'm gonna give myself options for afterwards. And I think after he kind of like did that, there were a lot more players that were like, oh, we should probably also do that. So there's some more players that are kind of like dabbling in other areas of esports. So I think that's really smart, and it's good to see because, you know, we've seen in some other esports where as soon as a player is like traded off of a team or like they lose a spot on a team, you never see them again, and then you hear about them like years later, and it's like,
oh,
they like aren't doing anything, like they're struggling, or like some of them are in like a bad spot because they just don't know what to do, because they dedicated their whole lives to being a great gamer, and it's like that doesn't really translate to much.
Yeah, it doesn't transfer to many other profitable skills.
And
which I think is why streaming is so important for players, because there's a backup plan.
Well, like, unfortunately, most players don't do it like Jake. You know, they don't go through college, and they skip college. They oftentimes skip like the last year of high school, and I mean, like, that's why it would be nice to get more collegiate stuff going on with Overwatch, and it's been starting, but like that is something where you get a kid to leave with a college degree and go into the Overwatch League, they're set. Like, Jake's fine. But other players
smart,
that just go right in, it's like those are the ones that run into problems later on in life.
But I think that's the whole problem with esports in general right now, is that it banks on the skills of 18 to 22-year-olds, right?
Yeah. It's kind of old school
so
baseball.
Kind of like the NBA.
I think about it. Like old school baseball, where they were signing people at 16 and putting them in like A leagues and rookie leagues, and just foregoing any kind of education because you can hit a ball 350 feet or throw it 100 miles an hour.
But then you have zero skills going into the real world. Like, you miss out on all of that personal development, and you get this job where you make a lot of money and you have no counsel on how to make that money last you for the rest of your life, because you apparently can't be a gamer for the rest of your life, right? And in their mind, that's
be
not
like Gesture
there.
and have like 50 pairs of $250 shoes,
Right? Let's hope he's got at least a couple more years of making good money to invest or something, but that's not the case, right? And there's no yet in Overwatch League, there's not a players union or anything like that who's fighting for these players. They're expected to fight for themselves, and they're not fighting for themselves. They're like, oh, you want to pay me to do what I love? Okay. Like, sure, I'll do it. Like, whatever. I'll sign this, I'll sign that. Like, they don't get that type of education to help them understand that the real world sometimes sucks and you have to figure it out.
Yeah. I feel like there was an interview where Jake was talking about the possibility of a players union, because I know in season 1 there was a period in time where everyone was like, we really need a players union. I think it was when all the XQC stuff was happening, because everyone was like, some of this isn't necessarily fair, he's being treated differently than others and stuff. And he was asked about it, and Jake pretty much said, I agree we need one, but who's going to start one? Like, it has to be run by players somewhat, but it can't be run by players because they're busy doing all this other stuff. So it's feel
usually
like
by retired players, right? Like, you look at the NFL and the NBA and stuff, and like retired players have started up those type of institutions and whatnot, and we don't have those yet in the Overwatch League. I mean, we have some.
You need to call Dak up or something.
Yeah, and you even have some
Dak dies too often. We can't have him running the players union.
The Fred's gonna run the
Yeah.
Overwatch League.
No!
It's not
Well, I was gonna
has a
say,
lot of
Dudes, let's
skills.
go.
I was gonna
Not
say
that
Jake might like obviously he's gonna hopefully go into casting, but like Jake might be able to be that guy once he retires because he's shown interest in being a players union and he's a responsible boy. So like
To be honest, I think his mom's gonna start it. We sat there and talked to his mom for like an hour and a half at BlizzCon 2 years ago, and she was like, I was like, okay, I understand Jake so much better now because I
Yeah,
see you and
super
you have like,
impressive.
you're like, she's like taught him all about like, here's what you need to do with banking and blah blah blah, and like she's runs courses for people to come to learn more about, how to be a successful human being. And
She has a
she's
pretty
amazing.
it's a pretty successful internet blog.
nice.
But I do think we'll get it. We'll get it. Go ahead.
I think the biggest thing, like right now, that they need to do is the thing they did in the NBA with the rookies, where they take them into a class and every new player has to do it. Like every draftee has to do it, where they just teach them not to spend their signing bonus or contract money immediately as soon as they get it. Because I know it's kind of nitpicky, but all the shoes that these players are buying really adds up. Like the Yeezys and stuff, because they're probably not going to wait in line for them, so they're buying them aftermarket, which adds another couple $100 to the price, and then they buy a couple pairs, and it's like, you do make somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000 on average, probably. So I just don't know if they're thinking about it that much. So
Well, and most of them don't have to pay for room and board. They don't have to pay for meals. Like, they don't have to pay for a lot. So, like, their real life experience is very minimal. Like, most of them are living in a frat house, right?
Yeah.
I remember.
Or a mansion, if you see like what DeFran showed.
I mean, most frat houses were mansions, right? Like,
and just think about what you would
Grosser.
have spent that kind of money on when you were 18.
Yeah,
I don't think about it right now.
Yeah,
Adam's big
like,
DeFran picture in the background.
Yeah, this bad boy cost too much money, but but I'm glad I got it now because it was probably my last chance. But yeah, I feel like since it's all like a bunch of young guys and they're finally getting money for the first time, and like you said, they don't have to pay for food, they don't have to pay for housing or anything like that. They get transported everywhere they need to because they pretty much just play Overwatch and then go home and sleep. So like
their money's fun money.
Yeah, it's fun money, but like it won't always be like they won't always have that. So I think, like Calder said, having some sort of class that's like, don't be reckless and buy a $200 signed DeFran poster to put in your room.
Well, and like another thing you just like made me think of, like going through college, I could easily eat mac and cheese 2, 3, 4 nights in a row as my food. I could easily eat cereal constantly. No, I can't. I could easily eat, grilled cheese. But once I started being introduced to more expensive foods, like a lot of these kids are with their fancy chefs, all of a sudden my taste changed. And then McDonald's wasn't good enough. Burger King wasn't good enough. I needed something.
But mac and cheese was always good enough.
Mac and cheese is always
Let's
good.
just
But
be
I mean,
clear
like,
here.
You're getting, like wine type of tastes, and if you don't have that job, like if you go work as a server, you don't have those wine type options anymore.
Yeah, don't drink the expensive wine because then you won't want the cheap stuff. Like, come on.
Which, back to the mac and
Lucky
cheese
move.
point, there is expensive mac and cheese that is significantly better than normal mac and cheese. So it is
There
possible.
is,
Lobster
but
mac and cheese, it's
the
wonderful.
normal mac and cheese is still good.
Yeah.
So
Agreed.
it's okay. It's okay, guys.
Okay, well, now that we have come full circle on our mac and cheese talk. All right,
I would like to make sure that you're in agreement that mac and cheese is amazing.
I mean, it depends on the mac and cheese, but yes.
No,
we are all
get
on
outta
board.
here.
White cheddar is significantly better than any other type of mac and cheese. I'm going to put that out there right now.
I would
The
definitely
Cracker
agree with
Barrel
that.
mac and cheese. Have you ever had it? You can buy it. It's
I don't
fantastic.
think we have that in Canada.
Yeah, we have President's Choice instead of Cracker Barrel.
Listen,
Fucking
I don't
Canada.
like Cracker Barrel that much, but Cracker Barrel mac and cheese from the store, epic.
Just a bunch of a-holes.
Totem lives in Chicago.
And I'm pretty sure it's fat-free, so we're fine.
Totem lives in Chicago. I'm a fan of Kuma's Corners mac and cheese, and you can put a whole bunch of different stuff in there. That's my favorite mac and cheese on the planet. But
I mean, Blue Box.
All right, I'll
is
go
still
with
pretty
just the
good.
Blue Box, like Kraft mac and cheese, but
and it's its
you have
place.
to make it with only butter, no milk, and then you have to refrigerate it for at least an hour and then reheat it. Best thing ever.
I was with you on the butter part. Then you lost me.
Yeah,
Well,
I don't
if you like
it
it more
refrigerated.
creamy, then yeah, definitely just butter, no milk. Makes
Yeah,
it
if you don't like
liquidy.
dry noodles that are kind of cheesy, yeah.
Who goes, I'm really hungry right now. Let me cook this, and then I'm going to put it in the fridge for an hour, and then maybe I'll
no
eat it
one.
later.
Nobody makes mac and cheese for an hour later. Like,
But
let's
the
be
beautiful
honest.
thing
Like, that
is
doesn't
I
happen.
have a wife that loves mac and cheese, so I'm like, all right, sweetie, stick some in the fridge for me,
It's true.
and then
I
I
love
just reheat it, and it's the most glorious thing ever.
And I get to eat it at its perfect state.
Jack Sprat could eat no fat. His wife could eat no lean.
I like how
You forget the rest.
Together they clean the planet clean.
I like how Totem tried to like
felt it was
wrap up the
enough.
mac and cheese
I know.
talk, and it's still
Now
going.
We just
now we're on
escalated it.
nursery rhymes.
We just take that next step. But anyways, to wrap things up, let's quickly just go around.
But really,
and...
Totem.
No,
I'm just
we're
kidding.
closing it out. So to wrap up, let's quickly just go around and let everyone know what we have going on in regards to our podcast and where people can reach us. So let's first start with the guys over from the Overwatch. So what's been going on with you guys as of late, and where can people find you on social media?
I guess I'm gonna start. So you can find all of our information at thebroverwatch.com, where we post articles, and there's also all of our social media stuff there. Mostly our YouTube channel is where we initially post the podcast, and then it goes to audio places. But this upcoming week, we're gonna have an episode where Calder and I each draft our own teams of players that are in a bad situation, which is pretty vague.
So all outlaws.
Yeah.
I didn't even say it. Damn.
But the thing is, like, they have to be good, though. That's the problem.
Yeah,
Oh.
so they
Okay.
weren't drafted.
Hey,
Calder,
Calder, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave.
Yeah. I'm sorry, he got disconnected.
Yeah.
Oopsies.
But yeah, so we're gonna do that. That should be fun. Other than that, we just upload the podcast every week. And yeah, Calder, you have anything else to add?
Not really. No.
I think he told me he loves the Outlaws.
Yeah.
That didn't happen. I promise.
Did you guys spout out your social media?
Oh yeah, you go first.
You can find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Calder100. I may do a Minecraft stream that's too long sometimes.
He did a 12-hour Minecraft stream.
And then you can find me on Twitter at Calder_100.
You can find me on Twitter at I'm a dumb cook, spelt dumb as in idiot. You can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/I'm a dumb live, and you can find our Broverwatch Twitter at the Broverwatch on Twitter as well.
All right, and I do know Overtakes, you guys have been kind of expanding your coverage in regards to your YouTube releases as of late. So where can people get a hold of you over on the social medias?
You want to hit this, Cal, or you want me to get this?
You got it. You know all of our stuff better than I do.
I don't remember the addresses that great, though. We're doing a lot more. We're doing a Sunday night recap thing on. We're calling it the Back Cap on Twitch. So it's going to be on Overtakes _OWL on Twitch. That is also our Twitter address where I spout off and scream about the mayhem pretty much during every match. And we also have our YouTube channel where we're doing a lot of our previews and we're focusing more on power rankings because that seems to be the thing to do, and that's where me and Kel get more into slight differences into, you know, the Overwatch League. We have a lot of the same opinions, which is we thought it was going to be more when we started it. We thought it was going to be more like, okay, we have differences in opinions. It's going to be like Stephen A. Smith and somebody else screaming at each other, but we kind of think the same. So we figured power rankings are going to be the way to kind of get us to do a little debating. But those are our two main areas that we're doing stuff on, and we have a Facebook page, but
we neglect it horribly.
I hate Facebook.
Us too, dude.
Yeah.
Us too.
I don't know.
No, we're mostly on Twitter. It's at overtake_OWL. Check us out on there. We're on there all the time, interacting and all that. So that's the best place to see what we're doing and when we're doing it, because we post everything that we're doing on there.
All right. Then we also have Lace and Bob and Meldarina from I'll Recap. Where can people find you guys at?
Do you want me to take it?
I was just gonna let you do yours, and I was gonna do the I'll Recap one.
Well, you looked at me like I knew that. I'm not telepathic here. I'm sorry.
You usually are.
I know sometimes. You can find me on Twitter at MeltOverwatch. That's about it. I don't do Facebook. I don't do Instagram.
No one does Facebook anymore.
I try.
Your 50-year-old aunt does, but, you know.
Her name's Claudia. Do you know her too?
She's probably about my age, so probably.
Well, we can hook you up.
Oh my gosh.
I'm already married.
All right, so you can find me weekly on OWL by the numbers. You can also find me weekly at Al Recap, and this week we are also doing the dreaded power rankings. I think they're dumb, but everybody else seems to like them, so we are going to do them. So we will be doing that Monday, and you can find me specifically and everything that I do on Twitter at Blazin_Bob. That's BLAZZIN_BOB.
Did you tell him about Al Recap YouTube?
Oh, I mean, yeah, the YouTube's been growing, but
we
yeah,
have.
I mean,
Let me take
we're
this.
mostly in the
player
audio
interviews.
space.
We have player interviews on YouTube at our YouTube.com/Al Recap.
YouTube.com/Al Recap.
Okay. Yeah, we have player interviews weekly during the stages. Those are fun.
Yeah. And those will be coming back. Just you can't really get them during the finals and stuff because it's all press conferences. So,
all right. And assuming Julian is still with us, even though he's in the
alive.
video abyss, he is here.
Oh, you're alive!
Yeah.
Bro, if I can just give a quick shout out to, I hate a certain cable company that starts with a C. So.
CenturyLink.
Sure, it's not Comcast.
Oh, it's not
Comcast?
I
It's
hate
either
you, Cox
CenturyLink
Digital
or
Cable. Thank you.
Comcast.
Or Cox.
Cox is
Oh
the
yeah,
worst. I
Cox
hate it.
Media.
Yeah, shit talk Slambo's company.
Slambo, I hate you and your team and the cable company.
I'm pretty sure it was
Clip
Slambo's
it,
fault.
chat. Clip it and
That's-
send
You
it to
know what?
Slambo.
Cox has been so bad to me tonight. I'm glad DeFrank got kicked off the reign.
Whoa.
All right. Anger aside, you can find me on our Fantasy Overwatch show and podcast for Owl and for the Overwatch League Network, which is Owl by the Numbers. You can find me personally at Ramses_OW, and I actually our mutual friend from Owl Recap and I, Labosco, and I are working on a show that should be coming out later this week, which you'll be able to find more details on Owl Recap. Not Owl Recap, I'm sorry, on
MashThoseButtons.com.
Yeah. I'm a mess, guys. I'm sorry.
He is joining
We'll
the
promote it on Owl Recap,
network
too.
that
Don't worry about it.
started me out. So
Okay.
big shout out to MashThoseButtons.com. Watchpoint Radio is where I cut my teeth.
Let me be concise on this. We are doing a new show with Mash Those Buttons about Overwatch League. You'll be able to get more details from it later. when you see me on Owl by the Numbers later this week, totem permitting, of course. I guess Bob's going to promote it too. Bob's a good guy. And
Mel says no.
Yes. Yeah. Blech. Jeez.
You made it through. Eventually, you got there.
Yeah, I think you did it.
I kept waiting for like the phone scramble sounds to just start and to kill me again.
I was waiting for that too. But as for myself, you can find me on Twitter at TotallyDrunkCTR. And podcasts, there's far too many to list. We have Overwatch League Network Monday, 7 p.m. Pacific time. OWL by the Numbers at Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific time. And then, of course, Heroes Never Die, which is a variety Overwatch show, Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific time. And then you can find all those Twitter handles on my main Twitter account. And all of them are live on Twitch at twitch.tv/OWLN show.
Don't forget about OW Recall.
Yeah, I mean, that's there too, but that's not as consistent. But, we have Overwatch Recall, which is our episodic listing, and our podcast directory, where you can find all of these podcasts, as well as, 26 other active podcasts, so be sure to check that out on our website at owlnshow.com/OWRecall. Then every Sunday night we do the Weekly Recall, which is our listen of all the latest podcast episodes. And we'll have some more content creator interviews coming soon, but that's back on track. But with that being said, guys, it's been a long one. We hit all the Stage 1 recap, preview Stage 2, and we'll see.
2 hour stream.
We talked a good 10 minutes on mac and cheese too.
Yes, we did.
That was
I
very
mean,
smart.
I feel like that was the
Hours
highlight
stream.
of our
on
stream
one.
here, guys.
Mac and cheese stream 1.
Also,
Meta
real quick,
aside-
can I shout out one more show that they
it
worked
about
on
mac
this,
and
but
cheese?
Do it. Do it.
I was gonna shout out the Hack the Planet podcast, because our Broverwatch writers are kind of heading up that podcast. I know.
Oh yeah,
It's
the
part of the-
Contenders one, right?
Yeah. So if you love Contenders, be sure to check that out.
Yeah, I
as
know
well.
they're on a temporary hiatus just due to one of their co-hosts leaving, but they should be back here pretty soon.
Yeah.
But with that being said, guys, thank you so much again for hanging out with us all tonight. Again, this has been our first of potentially more podcaster roundtables, so who knows, maybe we'll do it again after Stage 2 and Stage 3 and Stage 4.
We'll see who comes back.
We'll see.
I'm in.
We'll see.
Mac and cheese for everybody.
I expect everyone
Next
to have a bowl
episode, we
ready.
talk about BLTs.
Yes.
Oh,
The meta could change from mac and cheese to BLTs. It could happen.
I'm out.
We'll
Yeah.
see how the meta shifts, but I personally think
bench.
that it's going to go in more of a taco route, but we'll see if
But
mac and cheese meta.
Listen,
do you
there's
make
like
your
a
grilled
brisket.
cheese with real cheese or American?
Listen, there's like a brisket mac and cheese at the Guildhall in LA by the arena.
Oh yeah, dude.
It's
the
to die
Guildhall
for.
food is to die for.
Man,
And on that note, guys, have a good night.
Not going to go into the tacos in LA.
Nope, we're not going there.
All right.
I
OT
feel like
Health,
since-
thank you for the follow.